Benedict, thank you very much. Come and join us here. To talk more about letters and Letters Live, with me in the studio is the man who put Letters of Note together. It's a website, it's a book, it's part of the festival, Shaun Usher. And to tell us how we'll be talking to each other in the near future, the tech evangelist and chief executive of Decoded, Kathryn Parsons. Welcome both. But first, Benedict, I mean, it's a very odd reading, that one, isn't it? Because it's not just any old letter, it's a kind of peculiar thing to read. You're not acting, it's not real, but it's sort of real. And
yeah, and forgive the American accent, but I think it's important to sort of intone something of what it would have been, which is a public address to the television by a president. And it was written as a speech, but sent as a letter. And it was one that was never read, so we thought it was appropriate in the sense that it was something that was actually, you know, ordained for this purpose.
Are you a big letter writer yourself? Are you?
I was. I think, like a lot of us, you know, it's something that's a rarity rather than a normality. And one of the things we're hoping to celebrate over those nights is the joy, not just of the voice, the intimacy between the writer and the receiver, but also the actual tactile, physical effort and the slow brain that's active in creating something from hand to, from brain to hand to paper, and the actual art of writing, as well as the content of those letters.
I mean, Shaun Usher, you've compiled lots of letters, you've looked at it. What is it about letters? What makes letters special to you, as opposed to typed emails?
When you sit down to write a letter, I think you are a completely different frame of mind than when you write an email. And I think you reach a different level it's a deeper level of communication. And I think you miss that when you send an email or a tweet. I think it's just so much more. Yeah.
Okay. So, what are some of the favourites in the latest collection, Letters of Note, that you've put together?
Oh goodness me! There's Virginia Woolf's last letter to her husband just before she ended her own life. That's an incredibly sad but very generous letter. There's a letter from a copywriter called Robert Pirosh, who wanted to become a screenwriter, so he wrote the most amazing job application letter to all the Hollywood studios he could find addresses for, and it got him a job with MGM. And he went on to win.
There are lots of Hollywood ones. There's a nice one from Mario Puzo to Marlon Brando in 1970. I wrote a book called The Godfather, which has had some success. I think you're the only actor to play the Godfather with the quiet force that the part requires. It's just nice to think he wrote it, and you know the rest was
indeed.
One
of the best things about that particular letter is the fact that it's handwritten, and his handwriting is terrible.
Right,
but it just shows you so much about the character of the person.
Well, look, this is where we get onto the thing about it, because I'm wondering whether the handwriting isn't really the key thing in some of these letters, because it shows that you've taken the trouble to write it. I'm going to come to you in a minute, Kathryn, because you probably don't handwrite any letters at all, I'm guessing. But isn't the handwriting quite important? A lot of your letters are typed in the collection, but it's something about the handwriting that's the key.
It is. One of the best things I think about opening a letter is looking at someone's handwriting to see where they've kind of made mistakes, to look at the smudges, even to look at the kind of paper they've chosen. And with an email, you just don't get any of that. Everything looks the same. So the physicality of the letter is very, very important.
OK, so Kathryn, do you write letters?
Well, I did ask our team of predominantly under 30-year-olds when the last time they wrote a letter was, and there was an aching pause. Technology's affected all our lives, and especially communications, and how we communicate with people now is via messaging, Slack, email, emoji, and there are so many different ways to communicate, and a lot of them driven by technology.
So, Benedict, do you get letters? I mean, you must get fan letters for a start, and they must mean more to you than seeing a tweet with your name in it.
They do, but I mean, you know, I think both things have value. This isn't an either-or scenario. Both things exist, and I think it's an extraordinary thing when you get something through the post that has a weight, that has a sort of physical element to opening.
Come and tell us the truth.
I read a lot of them, I do. But, you know, thank you notes. I mean, I got married recently, and that was an extraordinary thing to relive the day through people's handwriting and different perception. And some of the notes were emails as well. I've had emails that I want to print and keep as missives, but certainly not somewhere in a sort of steel box in a plane in America. I'd much rather have that email printed out and have in a shoebox than online somewhere in a cloud. And I think there's an immediacy with technology, which is incredibly exciting, but an actual break in that with letter writing, which is equally exciting. And the two things, they're utterly different, but it's communication, and that's what we're celebrating.
But people are always nice in letters, aren't they? Whereas for some reason, there is a strange phenomenon that on Twitter turns people into the most awful people. I bet you know, you don't get horrible mail, hate mail, do you? Or very, very little of it, I
wouldn't like to comment. I mean, you know, I think, yeah, you get a lot of everything.
Yeah, okay, you do get a bit of hate mail. I just think on Twitter you get a sort of... Why is that? Why do people feel more able when it's online to be horrible, beastly?
Well, I think technology is neutral, and you know, we as human beings kind of create cultures of how we use mediums. I actually think the kind of physical world and the digital world are a beautiful hybrid, and the book was funded by Unbound. Technology enabled that to happen.
Were it not for something like, were it not for Twitter, I wouldn't be sat here now. You know, my book wouldn't have existed, I don't think, because Twitter propelled my website.
Now, look, most of us think you can be more expressive in a letter, probably mostly because you take the time. But I know, Kathryn, you think that technology's thrown up its own language, the emoji. Is that really? Does it really allow you to express things that a bit of time and handwriting wouldn't express? It's
a new form of expression. And actually, if you look at it, it's not actually that new. It's kind of like a modern hieroglyph, potentially. But a whole book has actually been written in emoji as a translation of Moby Dick, so emoji dick. And so actually it is a rich form of expression. It's just a different form of expression. And it actually adding some richness to that kind of quite two-dimensional text that you might get in an email or in a text message to give you a hint of what someone's emotion is.
I really wonder whether the thing about the letter, Benedict, isn't... It's like the slow movement. It just forces you to slow down, and maybe everything's a bit too fast. I mean, people write things about you, they respond to things about you. There's a kind of instant commentary on Twitter about everything, and actually the thing about the letter is, just be a bit slow.
I think so. I think that's what analog lends more than digital sometimes. But as I said before, you know, the excitement and furore of having some immediate communication in the digital age is equally exciting. I really appreciate looking at these artifacts of the human condition and seeing into a world, into a mind, into relationships, and it's everything from love letters to addresses from Gandhi to Hitler pleading him not to carry through his violent actions in the Second World War. I mean, it's an amazing time capsule.
Very
very varied.
Shaun, Kathryn, thank you all.